Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're going to do how I would have booked. And I haven't done one of these in a while, mostly because they usually take a lot of time to write out and go through. As most of you know out there, sometimes you just don't have the time to do things like this and then watch other wrestling and then make the other content that I make. But anyway, as you may have guessed by the thumbnail, we're going to talk about New Jack in WWE. If you're not familiar, there was a rumor, and I believe Bruce Pritchard has even gave it credibility, that when Carlito debuted with Jesus, there was talks about the Jesus position being given to New Jack, and New Jack being the guy that's Carlito's thug. So for that, we're going to go on that route. We're going to go to that multiverse. We're going to talk about what if New Jack was the one hired instead of Jesus. Now, unlike my other ones, I'm going to cut out most of the week-to-week minutia of it, and basically we're going to just hit the high points here, basically so we make it a little bit of a shorter video. And I'm trying to test out this concept, see if this is something that could work so I can make more of these. So you're not going to hear what they do every SmackDown unless it's something very important to the storyline, but you will hear the big beats of it, if that makes sense. Jumping right in, we go all the way back to October 7th, 2004. Carlito's debut on SmackDown. He's going up against John Cena. And this match I pretty much leave alone. The only difference I do here, instead of Carlito getting the chain to hit Cena to cause a win, I have New Jack come out of the crowd, grab the chain off of the table where it's laying, I guess the announcer table or wherever they may have laid it, and him be the one that hits Cena with it. That way Carlito can pick up the win and become the U.S. champion here. Now we have Carlito there. We have New Jack debuting. Here's where I'm going to change it a bit. Instead of doing the stabbing in the nightclub storyline, I'm going to have afterwards New Jack continue to work over John Cena with the chain, thus also being able to give him that injury storyline so he could go film the Marine. But I think where they went wrong originally is a lot of people like myself, and I've heard it before from other people, when you think of Carlito, Carlos Colon's son, being tied to a stabbing in wrestling, it's a little bit close to Bruiser Brody, and I don't want to cause people to think of that at all, because obviously there were people that did. I'm one that tied the two together. I didn't think they did it on purpose, but for me there were two things. There was that problem, and also he never physically shown a stab wound. There were no stitches or no scar. So with a chain, you can beat him up with the chain and say he's out with a concussion. You could say he's out with bruised ribs, whatever it may be. And then you can muddle the time frame a bit. So that's why I changed that a bit. Now going from that, our next match is going to be at Taboo Tuesday. And it's going to be basically a number one contender match with Carlito versus Hardcore Holly. Hardcore Holly became the number one contender. He's challenging for the U.S. title. With it being Taboo Tuesday, the fans select a table match, which we all know that some of those Taboo Tuesday fan polls were worked and they had it picked already. The reason why we're going to go with a table match for this is, as you see, they start wrestling. New Jack is there with Carlito. We get towards the end of the match. They're in the aisle. There's a table. Carlito starts beating down Holly, puts him on top of the table, puts him on top of the table. We don't see New Jack. Then all of a sudden, from the top of the screen, we see New Jack do one of his crazy dives through the table, dives and puts Hardcore Holly through the table, thus giving Carlito the win. We get to see the spectacle that most ECW fans know New Jack from, what he was mostly known as the crazy dive guy. Get to see that crazy moment here. Gives us a little bit of credibility as New Jack being totally insane. Also gives us a reason to believe him as the enforcer for Carlito here. So that helps Carlito keep the championship. Fast forward to Survivor Series. We get a traditional Survivor Series match. At this point, John Cena is back, so he is coming in to feud with Carlito. For this, he has his team. We're going to have John Cena, Maven, Hardcore Holly, and Rob Van Dam. And they're going to go up against Carlito, New Jack, Tomko, and Christian. And the reason we're tying these in here, Rob Van Dam and Maven, we're going to say are feuding with Tomko and Christian. There's an uneasy alliance between the four guys on each side, especially on the heel side. Christian doesn't necessarily trust New Jack or Carlito, and vice versa. We get down to the end of the match. It's John Cena, Carlito, and New Jack are the last three guys there. Carlito gets the chain, the same chain that they used to injure Cena, the one that they've been carrying around with them this whole time. And he goes to hit Cena, who's being held by New Jack. He misses, hits New Jack. Cena hits the attitude adjustment on Carlito, gets a pin on New Jack, gets the pin on Carlito. We get to see a little bit of redemption and a little bit of dissension in the ranks with Carlito and New Jack. Over the next few weeks on SmackDown, the tensions build up, but you see them kind of slowly gain back to respecting each other and being more on board with each other, leading us right into Armageddon, which would be the next pay-per-view. For Armageddon, we're going to combine, obviously Cena is saying, I got these two guys here, I'm going to need help. Hardcore Holly, a guy that they've attacked previously, a guy that they've also tried to injure previously, is going to team up with John Cena, and they're going to go up against New Jack and Carlito. This will have a similar theme to it, except for this time, the error is New Jack. New Jack hits Carlito instead of Carlito hitting New Jack, again causing more dissension in the rank. Hardcore Holly and Cena pick up the win here. There is very obvious frustration, this time more so on Carlito's side. So you're starting to see a little bit of that bubbling up. All the while, Carlito is starting to get a little bit of a better reception from the crowd. The crowd is starting to cheer for his catchphrase. The crowd is starting to like him a little more. We're starting to see where this is possibly going. Now fast forward again to the next pay-per-view, which is New Year's Revolution. We have John Cena versus Carlito for the U.S. Championship. Cena's trying to win back the championship. He lost a few months earlier. Stopped the reign of Carlito. They're giving us a fantastic match. We get down to the end, there's a ref bump, because obviously there's always a ref bump, and New Jack gets in the ring, and instead of attacking John Cena, he attacks Carlito, thus fully making New Jack the hated heel and kind of turning Carlito face. Cena doesn't see the attack, he gets the win. After the match, New Jack continues to attack Carlito. He hits him with his staple gun, another tie back to New Jack's ECW time, another thing that fans know him for. It's brutal, it's violent. Cena basically runs New Jack off, helps Carlito to the back, thus fully giving Carlito that face turn, thus showing that Cena is okay with Carlito. They patched up whatever differences they have, fully cementing Carlito to go in a different route, to go into a feud with New Jack. That rolls right into our next match, or our next pay-per-view, which is the Royal Rumble 2005. In this, we have a chain match. We've seen these guys attack each other with chains on SmackDown leading up to it. Carlito versus New Jack, and they're both tied basically like the dog collar match, except for they're just going to call it a chain match here, and it's tied to their wrists instead of their neck. Kind of like a hybrid between a strap match and a dog collar match. And this is a brutal, bloody match. It's violent, especially for the time in WWE. This sticks out kind of like the JBL Eddie Guerrero match would, where there's blood bleeding, where they're bleeding all over the place. They're going crazy. Carlito picks up the emotional win here, thinking that he's done with New Jack. It goes off the air. Everybody's happy. The face has now beaten the dastardly evil heel. That leads us into the next pay-per-view, which is No Way Out. Carlito and New Jack have been on different trajectories. They're not working with each other. The feud seems to be over. So at No Way Out, we have Carlito going up against Kurt Angle. The winner is going to be the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship coming up at WrestleMania. We get to the end, there's obviously, again, because there always is, there's a ref bump, and out of nowhere, out of the crowd, New Jack appears. People start wondering, is New Jack again there to help Carlito? Are they back together? Nope. He attacks Carlito, hits him with the staple gun, puts him on the announce table, dives from the top rope of the ring through him on the announce table, rolls him back in the ring just in time for both Angle and the referee to get up. Angle rolls over, pins Carlito, making him the number one contender. We get a lot of tension on the next couple weeks of SmackDown. Both guys want to match with each other. We have the match set for WrestleMania 21. Carlito versus New Jack, no holds barred. The match to finish it all. The loser has to leave SmackDown and basically be assigned to Raw at that point, because they're not going to let them be on the same show when they keep attacking each other and keep ramping up the violence. This is a great hardcore match. New Jack brings out his trash can full of plunder, which again harkens back to his ECW fame. They even spend the extra money to get Ice Cube and Dr. Dre to rap New Jack to the ring. Even though he's a heel, he gets the special entrance. The match is violent. You get all the norms of a New Jack match: the guitar shot, the staple gun, dive from the scaffolding on the WrestleMania stage. But no matter what New Jack does to Carlito, Carlito keeps fighting back. He keeps getting that fire, and the fans keep growing to be on his side here, and they're getting behind him, and they're really believing in Carlito as a babyface. He's bringing out that fire. He's starting to remind people of what they watched with his father in the 80s and in the early 90s, and how he would fight guys like Bruiser Brody or Abdullah the Butcher, and it would be bloodbaths, but he would always come from behind. Kind of what Carlito's doing here. We get towards the end of the match, we see a guy in riot gear come out, hits Carlito in the head with a nightstick. New Jack picks up the win off of that. We see the guy take off his helmet. It's Paul Heyman. And we've seen Heyman do this in ECW. He would use riot gear to debut people like Rick Rude. We've seen him do it in WWE, whether it be with Edge using the same thing, whether it be himself doing it. So it ties him in here. That brings us to the next stage, and this is pretty much where the video is going to end here because it ends this story. Paul Heyman with New Jack under his wing going forward, and how much destruction they could cause, and how Heyman and the way Heyman could sell it as he's bringing the violence of ECW into SmackDown so he could take over SmackDown. Another quote-unquote takeover type angle, but this time it's more in a sense of he wants New Jack to win all the championships, but that's a different story and a different angle. This basically is the end of that angle. The way I debut New Jack, all the way to getting him out of that and getting him out of the feud with Carlito. I think it would be great. Now, would he be able to stay this long? I mean, this is only half a year, but would he get fired for drugs? Would he get fired for getting in fights? Would he get fired for stabbing somebody? Would he actually try to kill John Cena at some point? These are all questions you have to put when you have New Jack there. But anyway, this is how I debut New Jack in WWE. This is his first story that I would give him. Let me know what you think. Do you like this idea? Do you like that I condensed it, taking out the little minutia of every single SmackDown? Would you like for me to stretch it out more? I think a shorter video, a more concise video is better, but I might be wrong. Let me know what you think. Hit me down here in the comments. Do you think New Jack could stay employed by WWE for 6 months, especially in 2004, 2005? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and you're watching another episode of How I Would Have Booked.